It is Kate and Kelly here. Poz isn't joining us, probably because he's hungover, as he had a really big night last night. But we are here, and we will be doing our predictions for the Aragon Grand Prix. But first, there's quite a bit of controversy and news to get through. So we'll start with the obvious one. Early in the week, we had Aprilia releasing a very brief statement about the situation with Jorge Martin, and they basically said the contract between Aprilia Racing and Jorge Martin is valid and in effect. They came out and said that they didn't think other manufacturers should be talking to Jorge Martin. All of this came about after Honda said that they hadn't contacted Martin in the last Grand Prix at Silverstone. So Aprilia were basically coming out and saying that no manufacturer should be anyway. Fast forward a couple of days, Jorge Martin posts on his Instagram story. Now I'm going to paraphrase some of this, but some parts I'm going to read out. Like, he said, "At no time have I ever breached the contract. When we signed it, I agreed with Aprilia that if certain circumstances were not met, I reserved the right to decide my future for 2026. Further in the statement, he says, "Faced with the situation of having to make a decision on a date that is established by contract, I have decided to exercise my right to release myself for the 2026 season. I have also always done so respectfully, clearly, and with the sole intention of taking control of my future as a professional athlete." He does go on to say that he and Aprilia are going to give it a few races and then talk about 2026, but this does open the door to other manufacturers talking to Jorge Martin. Kelly, what do you think about this whole situation, and what do you think this? How do you think this looks for Martin and Aprilia as a whole?
Honestly, it's not like we haven't seen Martin do this before. He's broken bridges with almost all manufacturers. He's broken bridges with KTM to go to Pramac Yamaha. Well, it was Pramac Ducati then. And then he broke bridges with Ducati to go to Aprilia. And now it looks like he's going to break bridges with Aprilia to go to Honda. It doesn't look good for him because all he's doing is breaking his contract and moving to different teams. It doesn't give off like the vibe that he's going to stay with the team and really help them grow. Of course, he reserves the right to go wherever he wants. Absolutely, that's just the way it is. That's how contracts work. But the way he's going around it and the way he's wording things, it just seems like if it's not going his way, he's just going to up and leave, which doesn't give off the vibe that these teams want. And right now, the only team actually open to bring him in is Honda. And by that, and the way it's looking, they're going to replace Luca Marini. And sorry, Jorge, I love you, but that's not happening. If the only spot open is Luca's spot, you're not getting it. Okay, I choose Luca over you, quite frankly. But yeah, it's really not looking hot for him at all, and I'm hoping that he'll just stick with Aprilia for the sake of himself and his image.
I have to agree. I think this is really not a good look for Jorge. I'd argue that he didn't burn his bridge with Ducati, probably because they made the decision to pick Mark, but I also can't see him going back there either. So it does seem really harsh what he's doing, and I really feel for Aprilia because they, especially Maximo Rivola, I probably pronounced that terribly, but he really stuck his neck out on the line and had to go back to Aprilia and ask for more money to sign Jorge, and so it just feels so bad for him. And like you say, Honda's probably the only place that's going to be looking for him to go to. And like you said, it's probably going to be at the expense of Luca Marini, which brings us to our next bit of news and quite possibly the worst possible timing this could have happened for Luca Marini. So he has suffered a pretty serious crash, which was done at the Suzuka circuit where he was testing for Honda. He has a dislocated hip, left knee ligament damage, as well as fractures to his sternum and left collarbone. But the most worrying is that he's also suffered a punctured lung. I can't pronounce the medical term, so we're going with punctured lung. It's the exact same injury that Jorge Martin had, and obviously we saw that the recovery time for that is quite extensive. Do you think this hurts Marini's chance of staying at Honda if Martin was going to jump ship, or do you think they, Marini is showing that, he's got the talent to develop that bike and the speed and also managing to stay on it, but do you think this could be the nail in his coffin?
I love Luca for sure. But we also know how MotoGP works and we know how some of these team bosses think. So I definitely think that the injury isn't looking too hot for him. It's not something that's going to make him stay. But I'm hoping that they'll use their noggins a little bit and keep him in the team. But if Jorge Martin's looking for a team, they're going to sign the world champion over Luca Marini, which makes me highly upset because I don't think Jorge has the capability to develop a bike the same way that Luca has been doing. And unfortunately, it's not Luca's fault he got injured. Like, when you think about it, they're going to keep a rider who crashes his bike every single sprint. How many sprints has Joan Mir actually completed this season when you consider it? If you're going to fire a rider who's actually been getting consistent points and good results over somebody who crashes trying to get consistent points and results, then I don't know what to tell you, really. Um, yeah, I think it definitely hurts his chances, but I'm just hoping that the team bosses will actually think a little bit for once and keep him in the team and tell Jorge, no, sorry, not happening.
I have to admit, I'm on the same page. I think Marini is much better at developing a bike than Martin. So, for the long term goal of Honda, I think having, I guess this is probably my ideal situation. It would be having Zarco stay at LCR, obviously being an LCR fan, and having Marini and Mir stay together, and Jorge nowhere near that team. And I'm saying that as a diehard Honda fan and a pretty big Martin fan. The next rider rumor is the fact that I'm going to totally butcher this and Pos is going to kill me. Keenan, I'm not actually going to try. Basically, Toprak, Razgatlioglu's manager, has come out and said that he has signed with Pramac Yamaha. It does look like he will be taking the place of Miguel Oliveira rather than Jack Miller. Now, this is all rumour and speculation, but we are seeing it reported like gospel. Obviously, Pos will be very happy with this news, as we know he's a fan of the Turkish rider. Do you think this rumour is true? And if so, do you think it's going to be Miguel or Jack that's going to go?
Unfortunately, once again, knowing how MotoGP works, I believe it. Really, I do believe it. These rumors have been spreading around for multiple years, and I wouldn't be shocked if MotoGP jumps on the bandwagon and says, yes, we want you. Um, in terms of who I think it will replace, I'm going with Oliveira. Unfortunately, he's just been too injured, and Jack has started to get some decent results on that bike, which shocked me, but I'm happy to see it. Yeah, I think it'll be Oliveira that goes. I think it's been coming to him for a good while. And yeah, I just I don't want him there, quite frankly. I think Superbike to MotoGP is really a massive jump, and I don't think he or fans or MotoGP themselves actually see how much of a difference these bikes have. And his fans scare me. Really, his fans like genuinely scare me. It's like the equivalent of Argentinian fans in F1. So I'm hoping they don't really come over from that. But yeah, so honestly, not something I want or expected, but I think it's gonna happen.
One, I suppose, overwhelmingly positive bit of news that has come out in the recent week is the fact that KTM have announced that they will be honouring all current racing contracts. So the big one for this means that KTM will be staying in MotoGP for 2026. 2027, we just don't know. And there's a question that's been circling around the paddock for a little bit, and it came up quite frequently at Silverstone, especially in a interview with Alberto from Honda. Now, they asked him if he was willing to run 6 bikes. So obviously this would be Tech 3, would be jumping ship from KTM. Now, both Honda and Yamaha have come out and basically said that they are interested in running 6 bikes. So, Kelly, do you think Tech 3 Yamaha sounds good, or would you prefer Tech 3 Honda? And that's obviously if they jump ship. I'm sure we'd both prefer it if they stayed Tech 3 KTM, but which would you prefer?
Tech 3 Honda sounds better, but Tech 3 Yamaha is what I really want. Um, I'd definitely choose Yamaha over Honda just in terms of riders. Sorry, Luca, I love you, I promise. But yeah, Tech 3 Honda sounds way better, and it would be quite nice to have another, suppose, development team for Honda because they've been far behind development in terms of what Yamaha have been doing. Then again, I'd love to have another quick team in Yamaha, so it's really debatable. But with my personal bias, I'd like Yamaha.
That is pretty much it from us from the news. Do let us know if you totally agree with our opinions or disagree with them, especially in regards to Kelly and the top rack situation, because I can tell that one person's going to have at least one comment about that. But let's look ahead to Aragon, because it could be anyone's game, but I'm sure our predictions are going to be pretty much the same. I'll start us off with Moto 3, and I'll start us off with Poz's predictions. He has gone for Angel Piqueras in P3, Joel Kelso in P2, and Jose Antonio Rueda in P1, with Luca Lunetta as his reserve. Now, my reserve was Angel Piqueras, my P3 was Joel Kelso, P2 Luca Lunetta, and P1 Jose Antonio Rueda. So Pos and I have gone for the same people in different positions. What about you, Kelly?
In P3 for Moto 3, I've gone with Carpe because he's definitely been performing a bit better, and I'd like to see a podium from him because it's very well possible. Second, I have Luca Lunetta, given his last result, and I like Luca. I like to see him on the podium. First, Jose Antonio Rueda, that's just a given, really. I'm not going to change that probably for another couple of months. And then, as my reserve, I have Guido Pini because every time I do my predictions, he's always generally in around the top 10. And if something does go crazily wrong, at least I'll get a couple of points out of him. Um, for Moto 2, in third, I have Moreira, actually. He's been performing quite well, and I do like I do like the chap, so I'd like to see him on the podium a bit more. Second, I have Aaron Canet, but he hasn't really been performing up to my standards recently. I'm really disappointed, Aaron. Pick it up a little bit, mate. And first, I have Manu Gonzalez. Even though he did crash last round, he still has the capability to win over so many of these riders. So that will say as it is. And then as my reserve, I have Sana Aegis because good last couple of results, and I do really like him.
You and Pos have gone for identical Moto 2s. So he, like you, has Moreira P3, Canet P2, and Gonzalez P1. I will say that his reserve is, of course, Dennis Onshu, because I'd say he's delusional, but I actually have Onshu in P3 because he got his first podium here last year, so I think he could do it again. In P2, I've gone for Jake Dixon, and in P1, I'm joining you both, and I've gone for Manu Gonzalez. I just think his form is so strong at the moment. It's pretty incredible to see. My reserve, I've gone for Senna Agius as well. He's just really strong this year. I did want to put Diogo, but I just think Senna's got something more on him. And yeah, that's what I'm feeling anyway. So for the sprint, MotoGP sprint that is, not that we have it in any other class. For P3, I've gone for Franco Morbidelli, P2, Alex Marquez, P1, Marc Marquez, and for my reserve, I have gone for Pecco Bagnaia.
Anyway, for MotoGP Sprint, in third, I have gone for Fabio Quartararo. This is a new one, a bit of an addition into my predictions, but he's been quick recently, and I'm hoping that the bike will keep that up. Um, Second, I've gone for Alex Marquez, and then first, I've gone for Marc Marquez. Wow, shocker! As a reserve, I've gone for Marco Bezzecchi because even though he did win last round, I'm not sure how well this will carry out, so I'm hoping it will just stay. For MotoGP feature race, in third, I've gone for Marco Bezzecchi because I'd like him to stick with a podium streak. That would be really nice. Second, Alex Marquez. First, Marc Marquez, not changing. And then as my reserve, I've gone with Franco Morbidelli because he's been getting pretty consistent results recently. Moving straight on to oh, moving straight on to Poz's sprint. In third, he has Pecco Bagnaia. In second, he's gone with Alex Marquez, and in first, he's gone with Marc Marquez. And then, as his reserve, he's gone for Franco Morbidelli.
And for the feature race, Poz has gone for Morbidelli in P3, Alex Marquez in P2, and Marc Marquez in P1. Pecco Bagnaia is his reserve, and honestly, we're all pretty much samesies for our podiums. Although, like Kelly in the sprint, I'm going, a little bit out there for my P3, and I'm going for Johann Zarco. I just really want it. It is probably the LCR fangirl in me, but either way, I'd love it. P2, Alex Marquez, and P1, Marc Marquez. I am having Pecco Bagnaia as my reserve. I am a little bit worried about him this season, but I am hopeful that he'll start to turn it around. At least I really, really hope so. Otherwise, it would have been nice to see Jorge Martin and not Pecco, and Marc Marquez at the factory instead of Marc and Pecco. But alas, here we are. We want to know if you'd enjoy us doing a bit of a championship roundup each week. So please definitely let us know in the comments below. We always love hearing from you and interacting with you. That is us for this week. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying our content. And have a wonderful week, and we'll see you after Aragon.